Hi, I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together we're Lippy and Grumpy Do Podcasting.
In this episode, Invisible Fire, train announcement, top selling films and infectious adverts.
Now Lippy.
Hello.
I had Davros on the phone.
Did ya?
Yes, I did. Well, it was on WhatsApp rather than a verbal communication. He was listening to the last podcast in the car and got slightly confused about your pronunciation of type A. He heard it as typey.
Typey.
And I guess actually when you look at the Daleks and Davros, they do overpronounce words.
Yes.
They are very clear in that respect, so I understand why it caused him some confusion.
And I am known for talking too fast.
Well, yeah, you're not so bad these days.
Jumbling my words.
And you have to remember that it is late in the day when we record this.
It is, after a full day of work.
Exactly, so the odd
which
slip up
consists only of 4 hours of wedding stuff.
What, during the day?
I'm joking. I work the full 8 hours that I'm meant to work.
Keep quiet about that if I was you. Anyway, we've got a whole bunch of topics, and that's the great thing about doing this every 2 weeks, is you've got a massive amount. So we may have enough for this week and a little teaser for next week. We'll see how it pans out.
A sneaky little... I don't know what word I was going to use then.
No, I don't. No.
No, I'll just leave it at that.
So I saw a very interesting video on one of the socials, and it was from 1981, and it was a race car. I'm not sure what series it was. It wasn't Formula One. It looks like it might be IndyCar, when they're open-wheeled cars. And the car's being run on methanol, which is an interesting fuel because when it burns quite hot, but there's no... the flame is clear and there's no smoke. So on this grainy 1980s video, you're looking at people patting themselves down and running around panicking for no apparent reason, but they are actually on fire, which is really terrifying.
Yeah. And if you can't see it, how do you know where to put it out?
Exactly. So you've got people with fire extinguishers dousing people almost at random. It's terrifying, and I'm surprised it's still used in races. It's used a lot in drag racing, apparently. There are some benefits. It's apparently more sustainable fuel than alcohol or obviously dead dinosaurs. There is a trade-off, though, and that's quite terrifying. And I'm not sure I'd want to be around any of those cars, particularly if they went up. So it's a race car called Rick Mears. So if you have a little hunt around the internet, no doubt you'll find the video, which it's sort of funny, but you think about it and you go, no, this is absolutely terrifying. Stay away from methanol.
Definitely.
Would be my advice, yes.
Definitely.
Now, you've had a couple of problems with parking fines.
Oh, no. I've had a nightmare with parking fines.
And I know
feel like
this.
It's definitely not my fault.
Well, I know it because you still haven't changed the registration address on your car, so they come here.
To be perfectly honest, right, it's not that clear that you have to do that. Like, I Googled, like, where do I need to change my address? And it came up with my insurance and my driver's license, which I changed both of those. I didn't realise there's like a whole other registration thing that I had to change.
Dear, oh dear.
So I still need to do that. That's on my
Well, you've been aware of it for quite some time.
Yes. Have I received the other one yet?
I don't think so. I'm going to have a look at the post
I'm still waiting on one.
Anyway, we were at a dinner party a few weeks ago, and there was a taxi driver there, really nice chap that we'll call Bob, because that is his name, it's Bob. And he was saying that he does quite a lot of drop-offs at the airports and pickups. And, of course, you have to pay, I think it's a £5 or a £10 charge, £5 to do that now. And a mate of his has fitted these so-called 3D number plates on his car, on his taxi, and the cameras can't read the number plate. Now, I didn't think these were legal, but apparently they are completely legal because they're the right font and they're the right spacing. They are simply, they've got some depth to them. So they're like the old-fashioned number plates from the 70s.
Now that is a life hack.
Well, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that you ought to evade parking costs at the local railway station. And these may not do that. But I then went down this rabbit hole of 3D number plates and 4D number plates. And I'm still not sure what the difference is, apart from about a £5 a plate.
How would you get a 4D number plate?
Well, how would you have anything other than a 3D plate, is my first question. But I suppose the numbers are flat on a standard number plate. So they raise the letters up. I think it's a generation thing, a bit like 3G, 4G, 5G in mobile phone terms.
Oh, I see. Rather than like concepts of depth and shape.
Yes, indeed. I don't think it's not a physics term. Right, through the magic of the internet, I have looked it up. And the difference is 3D plates are made with a gel polyurethane resin. So they have been called gel plates in the past. I have heard them referred to as that. 4D number plates are made of acrylic that is cut and shaped with a laser, giving it the raised appearance. Obviously, just a bit better. Yeah, it's a bit like the old plates in the 70s where they were 3D letters that were made from plastic, and then they punched holes in the number plate to fit the letters. So it was much more labour intensive. And then it all faded and looked horrible within a week. So hopefully these won't do that.
Oh, I've just realised my number plates are pretty dirty. Maybe I haven't got a ticket yet because they didn't actually pick my number plate up.
There is a downside to this, though. If your car's stolen, it won't be picked up on any number plate reader. Until they've sussed out how to do it, I suppose, and then all sorts of bills and things are going to come through the door.
I think I'd rather pay the £5. I guess it depends how much you're going through it.
Yes, I guess so.
And I'm not paying a £5. I'm paying 50 quid or whatever I'm paying for my city parking.
Well, if you paid the parking ticket, then you wouldn't be paying the 50 quid. So the £5 is the charge, not the fine.
I see.
Bob, the taxi driver, has got an account set up, so it automatically pays.
Oh, that's clever. I tried to do that. I tried to do that and it didn't work. And then they have told me I should be able to appeal the next one.
Oh, well, I would definitely do that.
But then if it doesn't go through, does that mean I have to pay the higher price? Because I haven't done it within 14 days.
I wouldn't have thought so, but a phone call would sort that out.
Yeah, because long story short, I set up autopay and then it didn't autopay. So I messaged them and they said autopay isn't available at that site. And I said, what do you mean? Nothing came up to say only certain sites available. And as it has the camera scanners, I would get it if it didn't have the camera scanners because how would autopay work? But it has the camera scanners as you go in and out, which is why I'm definitely getting a ticket because I was scanned in and out. So they know I haven't paid. And they said, oh, well, when you did autopay, there was a note that came up that said, view map of available car parks. And I was like, oh, you're joking. Like, I'm not meant to realise that means that, if in my mind, that means the majority of them are autopay and a few wouldn't be.
There's an assumption on both sides there, but if there's car parks that you expect to park at, it really ought to make it very, very clear.
Yes, and it didn't even have... initially, the serviceman said, it would have got you to consent that you checked your location. And I was like, it definitely didn't ask me to consent that I checked my location. And I said, that should be put in, though, because if I'd read it like that, I probably would have checked it.
Well, it's something simple, such as... where do you normally park? Do you have a station you normally park at? And then select the station and then it says, sorry, it's not available at this station.
Yeah.
That would resolve so many problems.
So many problems. Because also, they've now not got their money for the ticket that I didn't pay. And this other company have got the money for the fine.
Well, presumably... well, it can't be a fine. It can be a charge. It's not a fine.
Oh.
Well, in which case, 3D or 4D plates aren't really going to help, are they? Because all it's doing is encouraging you to be a criminal.
Yes, and I'm not trying to be a criminal. I'm just forgetful at paying. I'll let you know tomorrow if I'm going to be expecting another car parking ticket.
Yeah, well, I'd ring them and be very nice.
Oh, I normally am.
I know you are, but be very nice and say you're
very factual. I like to be factual.
Bit stupid. Always works. Bit of charm never hurts.
No. That's how I managed to get 6 free exam tokens at work this week.
Very good. Talking of charm, I found a posting about the chap in charge of the train station. And this had echoes of the station I used to go up to London from many, many years ago. And he just doesn't limit himself to announcing the trains that are coming. Mm. He also comments on interesting birds he sees on the platform. I assume that's the feathered variety.
I would hope so.
Commuters. He gives completely unofficial weather reports on what he thinks the day is going to be like. Refers to the very crowded trains as friendly trains. Not wrong there.
Ooh.
Regularly congratulates everyone on having gotten up on time on Monday mornings. And basically seems to use the tannoy system to amuse himself and try and brighten up everybody's morning commute.
Oh, how lovely.
I think that's so nice.
I like that.
Now, the station I went up to London from, this was in the 80s, and it was very basic there. There was a little hut for the man to check the tickets and to do the announcements. Mm. And it was a particularly bad morning. And the platforms are absolutely jam-packed with people, and the trains are cancelled and delayed and all sorts. I don't know what was going on. Anyway, he'd obviously had a bit of a day of it with people asking where the trains were. So he was in the middle of announcement of another cancelled or delayed train. And somebody walked past the box and said to him, "Why is that then?" And he turned around with microphone in hand and said, "I don't bleep know. All the bleep trains are up the bleep spout." To which point the whole of the station just erupted in laughter. And everybody calmed right down and went, "Oh, well, we're all in this together and it's a bit of fun."
Yes.
So hats off to him.
Hats off to him.
Yes.
There is a very lovely person that does the trains, is on the district and circle line at Victoria. They're always great.
Now, talking of great things, proving that we don't just throw this together, if I asked you what is the most successful film of all time, what would your answer be and how would you rate it?
Film of all time? I reckon in my mind, it would be a Marvel film.
Interesting.
Because they have such a huge fan base. And I always forget what it's called. But the last Avengers one, that would have been huge.
Was it Endgame, by any chance?
That's the one.
Yeah, it's pretty high. So we generally take success to mean box office returns. So the amount that was taken at the box office for a particular film. And Avengers Endgame is $2,798 million. That was the worldwide gross, which puts it at number 2. Number 1 is Avatar with $2,923 million. Yes, the first one. But is that a good way of looking at it? Because if you think about it, as we go in time with inflation, films are generally going to take more and more. So interesting, Avatar is from 2009, so that's quite a long time ago relative to the second one, which was 10 years later. So sometimes what they do is they adjust for inflation. And when you do that, things change a bit. So the original Star Wars in the 1970s appears as number 3, and you've got films like The Exorcist, which was phenomenally popular when it came out, the original Jaws, E.T. So all of those are up in sort of the top 10. Yeah,
I guess because although they took less, they didn't take less. It would have been cheaper to buy a cinema ticket. That's why they took less.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely right. Avatar's still up at the top, which is quite an achievement. But there's another way of looking at it, and that is return on investment. So how much did the film cost to how much did you get back at the box office? And this really throws things all over the place. It's absolutely bizarre. So I'm not going to ask you to guess because it's just going to be so impossible. But the highest return for a film with 7,375% of the cost recovered through the box office is My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
What?
Who would have thought?
Seen that film.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
I've heard it's good, though.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
I think they're doing a third one.
I didn't know they'd done a second one.
Yeah, they've definitely done 2. And I'm sure I heard they're doing a 3rd one.
And then pretty high up with those is E.T., Grease, Jaws, The Exorcist. So they were obviously much cheaper to make. Jaws really was a B movie. It's no way they knew it was going to be the success that it was. And then odd films like Crocodile Dundee, Pretty Woman, Home Alone.
Oh, I love Pretty Woman. I'm watching that at the moment.
All good films, which gave a amazing return at the box office. So maybe this is quite a good way of finding films to watch.
Yes. Will you be watching My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I think I might do. Now, we cover a few green things and climate-beating ideas on this podcast, which we're very pleased to do. And there's been a couple that have crossed my face, as it were, over the last few weeks.
Crossed your eyes.
Crossed my eyes, yes. And you may not know, but concrete is dreadful in terms of its effect on the environment. It uses a lot of electricity and power to make, and it's just not very good at all. However, there's a company that says they've managed to trap the CO2 that's generated from making it back into the concrete.
Oh, that's good.
Which is interesting. And I don't quite know how this works because it's very, very technical.
There's more air pockets in concrete now.
That I don't know. I am not a concrete expert by
Which would then
any stretch of the imagination. I have mixed quite a lot of it in my youth, helping Dad build various things, but I'm definitely not an expert. So the key now is to scale this thing up. It's all well and good making a small cube of it, but you've got to make a lot of it. So we would definitely keep an eye on that and see how that transpires. And it was interesting watching Ski Sunday on Sunday, obviously, and they were talking about climate change and the effect this year on the slopes and things like that. And you go to a ski resort and you see how much concrete is used in the making of a ski resort. So it's a tricky one, really. So if you could reduce that amount, then maybe it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. And the other thing I came across completely by accident, batteries made using hemp, which is obviously something that other people may roll up and smoke.
That's interesting, though.
Yes, and it replaces the cobalt in batteries, and I think it's nickel as well, which are both rare materials, very difficult to mine. So it's again, it's labour and fuel intensive to get those substances into the batteries, which makes them expensive.
Yes.
And hemp's relatively easy to grow and then to use. The advantage is the battery is lighter.
How do you know it's easy to grow?
Well, it's going to be easier to grow than dig cobalt out of a mine. Has to be.
True.
Yes, talking of which, a very large hemp factory was found in Wareham in Dorset a while back.
Yes, it was.
Yes. So I assume they were making batteries.
They're making batteries. So, I feel like that would be a hilarious storyline. Someone, when it snows and those people say, "Oh, you can tell who's using their attic for something naughty because no snows." If the police came knocking on your door and you just went, "Oh, it's for a battery."
Yeah, well, maybe you can get away with it now. It's research and development for a battery. There was a house in the village some years ago that had a whole load of flies in the window, and somebody walking past had seen it for a couple of days and began to wonder whether somebody had passed away inside. So they called the police, who knocked down the door, who were greeted by this sort of wall of heat coming out of and quite a few plants for making batteries.
Yes.
And no dead bodies. Anyway, these new batteries, they reckon, will do 100,000 miles in an electric vehicle.
That's good.
And I think it said it was quicker to charge as well. I might be wrong on that, but that, to me, is the most important thing.
Yes.
Is how do we charge all this stuff? Because we don't have enough power to go around, and it's expensive. And somebody I know who's just bought an electric car did quite a long trip, and he said it cost me about as much as it would in petrol, but it added 3 hours to my journey. So I'm not actually that
worth it.
Well, he says I'm not actually that enamoured with the whole thing. So, but sometimes it starts that way and gets better. Now, while we were at the dinner party with Bob the taxi driver, he was, for some reason, talking about the new McDonald's advert, which I had seen and didn't understand.
For the McCrispy.
I don't know what it's for, but it's set in an office. And I think one lady passes another lady a post-it note with an M on it, and then raises her eyebrows. And he said, it took me ages to realise they were making the McDonald's sign with it. And I looked at him and went, hadn't crossed my mind whatsoever. It's like that advert seems to be on constantly, and I don't watch the television very much, but every time it comes on.
Yeah, someone who likes a McDonald's, myself, I knew as soon as she passed the note, I literally turned to Duckboy and went, this is about McDonald's. It's a McDonald's advert.
I'm not sure that's a talent worth broadcasting.
Well, no, but I still knew it.
Yes, you did. You did know it.
I would win if it was a quiz question and they played the advert.
Yes, that's very true. But now we found you can't have a conversation without raising your eyebrows. It's so infectious. You see, you're doing it now. You can't help yourself.
I do. I raise my eyebrows quite a lot.
In surprise.
I've always wanted to be able to do the thing from the Cadbury's advert.
Or eat a flake in a bath. No,
do you remember the boy and the girl, children, that it was like do 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 do.
No.
Do you not remember the advert?
No.
With the eyebrows.
No, the only Cadbury's advert I remember is the one with the gorilla playing the drums.
I'm going to send you the eyebrow one because it's really cool. I'm trying to do it. It's like do do. It's
they
like
do
eyebrows
alternate
and time to the
eyebrows.
music. They're basically, it sounds like they're doing Irish style dancing, but with their eyebrows.
No, I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
I'll send it to you because it is a very good advert.
That must be a while ago then.
Yeah, years ago. Better than the McDonald eyebrows because that's just up and down. But these are like moving individually from each other, and they do the worm with their eyebrows. It's really cool.
So how come you can remember the intricacies of a Cadbury's advert from probably 15 years ago, but not that you had to change your address on your V5?
It's not that I didn't remember that. I didn't know I had to do that, and I just haven't done it now.
Ignorance is no defence.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, though, that if I had known, it wouldn't be... It's not that I didn't remember, it's that I didn't know I needed to do it. That's why I can remember the Cadbury's advert. And also, the Cadbury's advert's way more interesting than remembering to change my address
very
on
true.
My car.
That is true.
It's the whole point of an advert, isn't it?
It is true, but the advert's unlikely to land you with a fine.
Do I get a fine for that?
Well, if they work out you've not... The thing is, what I don't understand is that you've sent your licence in, driving licence in for address change, and they must connect you with your car, and they just go, well, hang on a minute, why is this not changed?
Or why can't they just do it all in the same form? You change your driver's licence and your car address at the same time.
Maybe they're not linked. But DVLA are very good at sending out snotty notes. Mm-hmm. The Horse Whisperer had an issue where she had a new insurance company, which I think you had as well, that turned out to be an absolute nightmare. And they didn't put the full registration number in. It only had, I think, it was the first letter and then the 3 numbers, and that's all they put in. And she kept getting letters from the DVLA saying, you're not insured. So she phoned up the insurance company and say, I'm getting these letters saying I'm not insured. Oh, no, you are insured. And it was only when the last one was threatening a fine. I looked at it and went, well, the registration number's not complete. They've missed off the letters at the end. And then there was a very fraught phone call with the insurance company. And they actually backdated the insurance to when it was taken out with the correct registration number, so problem went away. But how on earth did they manage to broker insurance on a vehicle that doesn't exist?
Who knows? They were a nightmare. So the way that they get you to enter when you passed your driver's license is like really dumb. Like, it's not that you don't enter the date, you enter a range.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so then I entered the range, and then they said my range was out, like it was wrong, and then they tried to charge me to change it because it was wrong, and I was like, well, that's your fault that it's wrong, not mine. You made up the date based on the range I entered. which is the only thing I could do on your website. I was like, obviously it's wrong because you made it up.
Yeah. Oh, they like charging for everything. But I suppose it's cheap. I mean, the insurance for the Mini was £74 fully comp for the year.
Is that, have you used those people that Charlotte and I had used?
No. This is
right, I was going to say.
No, this is a specialist classic car insurer.
Oh, that's nice. Mine's still like £400.
Volvo was just over 100.
God, I can't wait to be old.
I think I mentioned in the last episode, I recommissioned my turntable of some 30 years ago.
You did.
And I bought a record cleaner. And I didn't buy the £3,500 degritter, which I really quite fancied. And ended up buying a £30 one, which is manual, which is fine. Although people have reported getting cuts from the edge of the vinyl where it's really sharp, so you have to be a wee bit careful. But I tend to use a cloth, so I don't got my grubby paw prints all over it. Anyway, so I've cleaned some of them, and I found another load in the loft at the weekend, so I'm very pleased with that. And couple of things that have come out of this. One is the records are really dirty. They reckon you can do 50 records from one mix of the solution, which is distilled water and some cleaning solution. And it really was quite dirty when I emptied that away, having done around about 50. And some great big chunks of dust as well. It's incredible. Cool. And one of the records I'd had, which I may have bought second hand, but it's always had a crack and a pop in one particular place, to the point where when I play it in my head, I play the crack and the pop of the... Yeah, exactly. And it was the first disc I ever converted to digital and took out the cracks and pops. I remember that quite clearly. Anyway, so I put this through the cleaner, and it's still got a few cracks and pops, but it hasn't got that one anymore, the big one. Which is really impressive. Yes, very impressive. Anyway, as I'm doing this, there's a website called Discogs, which is a bit like eBay for records and CDs and all sorts of different forms of physical music. And you can create a collection on there of what you've got. And you think that would be quite easy. But, for example, I've got a copy of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. And you go on there, and there's about 15 different versions and pressings all around that year, 1973. The first pressings are worth somewhere in the region of £2,500, and unfortunately I don't have one of those. But it's interesting to see how many different elements it takes to release a record back then. And there's half a dozen different pressings. There's different combinations of sleeves and innards. I mean, to the point where the inner bag, you can differentiate different versions by whether it's a straight cut on the corners or a curved cut. And you just think there's so much complexity. It is utterly bad. So much detail that somebody has collected, over the years. Collaboration of people. But it just goes to show how big the music industry was back then in terms of actually producing physical music. It's absolutely astonishing. Really quite astonishing. And one of the other things is sometimes they'll get mistakes. So there might be a printing error on the cover, or they may print. In some cases, they've actually put a different record completely on one side of the vinyl. So you get one side you're expecting and then something else. And there's a few of these around. Anyway, I had a copy of Jethro Tull, Bursting Out, which was a live album, and I went to look it up and it went misprint. On the spine, it says Busting Out. And I thought, yes, here we are. We're on the money. No, because every one they produced was like that.
Oh, no.
They didn't correct it. They all say Busting Out on the side.
Busting Out. That's actually quite funny, though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would change that. I'd be like, yeah, that's funny. I'll take it.
No, well, the interesting thing is, on the front cover is a picture of Ian Anderson, who's the lead for Jethro Tull, and he is having a bit of a trouser failure moment, which I suspect is why it's called Bursting Out. It's only a very small one, but it's very noticeable.
Is he bursting out, or does he look more like he's busting out?
Well, who knows? Could be either. Could well be either. But I suspect that's why that album's called that, because they don't have a track called Bursting Out. Talking of records, the Screaming Tomato is still ploughing through his one track per day for this year, and there's been some absolutely corking tracks on there. So well done, Screaming Tomato. That's quite an effort to do that, 365. So keep it up. And he's also made a Spotify playlist as well, which is quite good. Ooh. So I can listen to them as well. They're very good. Now, one of the groups I subscribe to on Facebook is the Dull Men's Club, which actually is far from being dull. And I'll explain this one. This is brilliant. So if I have a pack of M&Ms, I like to hold 2 M&Ms between my fingers and squeeze them until one cracks. I eat or set aside the cracked one, and the one that didn't crack becomes the champion. Then I get another one and force it to compete with the current champion in this deadly game of M&M gladiators. I do this until there is the last one standing. Then I send a letter to M&M Mars, the manufacturer, with a carefully worded wrapping around the winning M&M and a note that reads, "Please use this M&M for breeding purposes." So far, I do not think they've taken my work seriously. I
really hope that's true. That's so funny.
Well, the problem is you post this and lots of people go, "Oh, what a good idea." And then Mars are inundated with champion M&Ms. And, well, presumably you didn't have a champion M&M off before you breed them. Anyway.
I like it.
Now, I've decided to have another segment in our podcast, which won't be every week, but I'm going to call it Evil Prank Corner.
I like it.
Now, I'm not sure where I saw this, but it tickled me. So my mum's laptop wallpaper was a picture of her granddaughter. Not unusual. I copied the picture 100 times and made her wallpaper a slideshow of the same picture over and over again. So the file would change, but nothing would change visibly on the monitor. The picture would change every 10 seconds or so. On one of the images, I painted a tiny little curly moustache on her granddaughter. Randomly, for 10 seconds, my niece would have a moustache. My mum thought she was either losing her mind or had a computer virus, and every time the moustache popped up, it was gone by the time she tried to show anyone.
That's so good.
The only downside with this is it's a very funny prank, but if the mum then went to somebody else and said, "I've got this problem, it keeps doing this," how on earth are you going to find it? Unless you have the foresight to think, "Oh, I wonder if it's a slideshow."
Well, I'm sure they would look at what settings the wallpaper was on.
Would you think of doing that?
I don't know.
No, it's interesting. There was a chap around the corner for us, one of the members of the Lions Club, who sadly passed away a few years back. And I get a phone call from him every now and then. He says, "Something wrong with my computer. It's just not working properly." I go, "Oh, I tell you, I'll pop round tomorrow." So I pop round and he'd fire the computer up. And I'd stick some antivirus software on there. And there'd be something like 2,500 pieces of spyware or malware on there. And I go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" But, "Well, I only do some word stuff and look at the internet." "Yeah, tell you, but what are you looking at on the internet?" "Well, just news websites." I don't think that's possible. And that happened a couple of times a year, I would have said. Yes, I know that problem very well indeed. So I know you've got a top tip for us because you shared it with me earlier, and it's corker.
It was cracking. I love a bit of TikTok. And it started off, and I love these videos because I tend to learn the thing that they've just learned. And it's like, and then they say the age when I learned, and this guy said, "I was in my 30s when I learnt you can use the back of the hammer to hold the nail on the first hit," or something along those lines. And I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense, because the back of a hammer's like where you can pull a nail out because it's got the two.
No, hang on a minute. You need to clarify this because there are many sorts of hammers. So the hammer you're talking about is a claw hammer. A claw
hammer.
Yes.
Well, that's something else I've learned. Oh, yes, I did know that actually, because it's like a mallet and a claw hammer.
Yes. There's many
So on
hammers.
a claw hammer, the hammer holds the nail for the first hit. So where the little groovy bit is, you can slide the nail in so it's holding the nail. And then when you bash the wool, it then goes in far enough so the nail's gone in to then hammer further. So you don't have to hold it with your fingers with the chance of your knocking your thumb.
You don't have to hold it with a very high chance of hitting your thumb.
Extremely high chance if you're me or you.
Yes. Now, I'm considerably older than in my 30s, and that's the first time I've seen that, and it is genius.
Utter genius. And it looked so easy.
Some of it would depend on what you were putting it into. So if you were putting a masonry nail into a wall, I'm not sure you'd get away with it. No. But certainly a nail into timber, that's a brilliant idea.
It worked so well.
Yeah. I'd like to try it. Need to find an excuse to use that. But that really is a top tip.
That is a great top tip for once.
Now, I've got a very short fact for this week, fun fact for this week, and it involves the Bond film Skyfall from 2012. And at the end of Skyfall, M, who passed away at the end of that, well, that particular M, M's name is revealed to be Olivia Mansfield. Know that?
I didn't know that either.
No.
I might have to rewatch it now.
We could just watch the very end of it.
No, I might as well. I like Skyfall. Might as well watch the whole thing.
And I don't think M stands for Mansfield.
No.
That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.